Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here at the first Thrive conference for PKD patients and families. My name is Canon. I am the Deputy Director of the Thalassaemia International Federation, and it's been a great honor to be working very closely with Tamara and the rest of Thrive in order to bring together this conference for improving the lives of patients with PKD. The Thalassaemia International Federation, as you will see during this presentation, has taken upon itself as a patient organization working globally to support also the PKD community in its educational and advocacy priorities. Through this presentation, I feel that I will provide to you at least a glimpse of what it is that TIFF actually does throughout the world, how we can work with you in order to bring some of those achievements to the PKD community as well, but also, and most importantly, to improve the lives of patients across the world. So a little bit about who we are. The Thalassaemia International Federation was founded by a group of 5 visionaries in 1986 in 5 different countries. So in the UK, in the USA, Greece, Cyprus, and Italy. This is mainly to do with where the biggest prevalence and the biggest hubs of patients are located. And since then, we've expanded to 66 countries and represent currently 226 member associations. And these in turn represent hundreds and thousands of patients across the world. We span from the USA all the way to the Philippines, taking into consideration that the highest prevalence of patients are found around the Mediterranean Sea in Europe, and then stretching throughout the Middle East and into Southeast Asia, where we see different types of thalassemia syndromes. Our mission is to develop and implement national programs, so national policies in each one of these countries to ensure the effective management and prevention of this hereditary and genetic disease. Of course, at the end of the day, what we want to achieve is to provide equal access to quality health, social and other care for patients with thalassemia globally in patient-centered healthcare systems. We all know that having a chronic disease is particularly cumbersome and burdensome on not only the individual but also the family. It's important to have enough support within the greater social landscape to deal with those issues. Most importantly, what I would like to mention is that TIFF has worked quite hard throughout its 30-something years of existence, and we've achieved some important milestones in our partnerships with health-related bodies at the international level, most particularly with the World Health Organization since 1996. This is a status that is renewed every 4 years, and we do actually have a joint plan of activities with the WHO that is renewed. Since 2017, we have also had a consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council, where we sit on that committee representing thalassemia as a rare disease in most of the developed world. And importantly, in 2018, the European Commission designated us its official partner in the field of health. And moving on from that, in 2019 and in 2020, which you do not see here, TIFF has become a member of the Council of the European Conference of International NGOs, and also a member of the European Medicines Agency in Europe, which is, like the FDA, responsible for the authorization of new medicinal products within the EU. Importantly, I should mention that in 2015 we were awarded a high-level prize by the World Health Organization for our outstanding contribution to the field of public health globally. And all of this has essentially been achieved because we are very methodical in the way that we work. We constantly reflect on the programs that we deliver, that they meet the patient needs and priorities. And then we constantly evaluate the impact of our work, not only on the societal level or the individual level, but also on the level of making policy changes happen. Our work is focused mainly across 5 pillars of activities, which we will see later on as well. So thalassemia, many of you I'm sure have not heard of this disease before, so just a very, very brief overview. As I've mentioned, thalassemia is a disease that is found across the world. It is a hereditary blood disorder caused by genetic mutations that disrupt the production of hemoglobin in the red blood cells, and therefore less oxygen is carried around the body that enables growth and development. This shortage of functional red blood cells leads to severe anemia, much in the same way as it does in PKD. And some of the first symptoms of thalassemia include excessive tiredness and fatigue, yellow or pale skin, bone deformities, delayed growth, and other health problems. It is a multi-organ disease, so through the main arms of clinical management, we aim to combat all of the primary but also the secondary symptoms and complications of thalassemia. So the first thing that all patients are asked to begin very early in life is to have regular blood transfusions. In its most severe forms, which is beta thalassemia major, these transfusions take place every 2 weeks. And these are lifelong. And then subsequent to the iron depositions within the body obtained from those transfusions, iron chelation therapy must begin. The deposition of iron, as you well know, on organs requires then the need for monitoring and the prevention of these additional complications, and therefore multidisciplinary care is needed. I should mention that thalassemia represents a spectrum of syndromes. So these range from, as I said, the beta thalassemia major syndrome, which is the most severe, all the way into syndromes that seldomly require transfusions. And although the clinical manifestation of the disease is rather different, its development throughout the lifetime may result in the need for more and more regular transfusions. So taking into account this very vast and heterogeneous needs of patients, so those that seldomly require transfusions until all the way to those that require regular transfusions, TIF's work is focused across these 5 pillars. So we work very heavily within policy and advocacy. As I previously mentioned, we closely collaborate and are partners with prestigious international bodies. And the reason we do this is because we would like to change policies or develop new policies or implement existing policies to a better effect to actually change the lives of patients. One of our key tools at this moment in time is the Global Thalassemia Review, which we published in 2021. This is a book. It's about 500 pages and it consists of 12 chapters that each analyze a specific aspect of thalassemia care. So we have a chapter on blood transfusion, one on iron chelation, etc., and it all culminates into one focusing on patient unmet needs. This is a key advocacy tool, not only for TIF as a global organization in order to convince policymakers to develop new, more targeted services, but also for our national organizations in the 66 countries that I mentioned previously to make tailored suggestions towards their authorities that will improve their lives. Moving on, a specific and most important pillar of our work is education. This is where we spend maybe most of our resources on. We believe that education is the foundation for all the other pillars, and education is the foundation for effective advocacy. So we spend a lot of time and effort to develop high level and reliable educational resources and educational opportunities, not only for patients, like specific publications or online courses. We have currently an online course for thalassemia, but we also have one for sickle cell disease as well that are available in numerous languages. But also we provide educational opportunities for the lifelong learning and development of expertise of healthcare professionals and treating physicians. This includes an online course, much in the same way as it does for patients, but also, and this is our biggest contribution, I feel, to the global thalassemia community, is the development of actual guidelines for the clinical management of thalassemia, of transfusion-dependent and non-transfusion dependent thalassemia. This is a small textbook that we advocate for treating physicians to use in their treatment of patients, so that all patients across the world experience similar provisions of care. Now, in order to get our message across and out and to reach out to as many people, obviously we need to be well networked, not only with international bodies, but we also work with other disease-specific organizations, such as the Rare Disease International Organization, the European Rare Disease Organization, but also the European Hematology Association, the European Liver Association, the American Society of Hematology, and others. And more recently, and in conjunction with Thrive, we've also founded RAIN, which is the Rare Anemias International Network, which is a patient-driven international network focusing on the needs of rare anemia patients like thalassemia, PKD, and others. Now, in conjunction to specific topics that we may want to pursue and objectives that we want to pursue, or areas of the world that we may want to focus on, we do undertake specific projects. For instance, at the moment we are running the Patients International Blood Alliance, focusing on the importance of blood safety and availability, especially after the renewed challenges that we all lived through during the pandemic with blood shortages. But also we are running the Thalassemia in Action, or Thalia program, in Europe, seeking to improve the lives of patients specifically in Europe. We also undertake some research activities, and obviously we do support the research that is undertaken for the development of new medicinal products and new advanced scientific advances in understanding the disease and providing new treatment methodologies. But much of the research that we do here at TIFF involves the improvement of the delivery of care, such as this certification program that we have for certifying centers of expertise and reference centers for the treatment of thalassemia across the world. Before moving on from this slide, I want to mention that one of the unique aspects of TIFF's work, which personally I have not seen in any other disease-specific association or organization across the world that works either at the international or regional or even local level, is the fact that we have continuous daily contact with our grassroots. So we have contact with patients directly in each of those 60-something countries. On this slide, you can actually see one of our so-called delegation visits to Vietnam a few years ago, with our president, Mr. Anglesos, and Vice President, Mrs. Chuli, both of whom were our parents of children with thalassemia that have unfortunately left us, and Dr. Adula Eleftherio and Dr. Michael Agassigniotis, who are currently the Executive Director and Medical Advisor of TIF here in Cyprus, visiting a hospital in Vietnam. What TIF does is actually visit hospitals across the world. We meet with patients, we meet with doctors, and we meet with healthcare decision makers in order to actually convey the daily and true challenges that patients face. You can see here that these patients are due for blood transfusion, and there's not one to a bed, but several. These patient unmet needs were uncovered mainly during our work and research to develop the Global Thalassemia Review. The vast majority actually of our patients do live in low and middle income countries. We have severe issues in terms of receiving timely and safe blood transfusions and inoculation therapy. Multidisciplinary care is not provided to the vast majority of patients. And there is significant out-of-pocket expenses required by patients and families to be provided in order to keep up with their care across the world. Now, how does PKD fit into all of this? So in my description of thalassemia, you may have noticed that I mentioned that we are a hereditary genetic disease. Thalassemia requires regular blood transfusions or irregular blood transfusions, and this is where the overlap with PKD comes in. Both thalassemia and PKD are inherited hemolytic anemias. Each disorder, of course, has a different and distinct clinical manifestation and clinical needs. However, we do share similar clinical symptoms, and as such, we do have overlapping treatment and medicines and monitoring needs. So both groups of patients do require blood transfusions. Splenectomy is advised for a good number of patients. And there is also the need for iron load assessment to make sure that we're not developing secondary complications in our patients. Therefore, the burden of disease is very, very similar. Furthermore, in many parts of the world, thalassemia is a rare disease, much in the same way that PKD is a rare disease. And as a reminder, when a disease is found in less than 1 in 2,000 people, it is considered rare. So there is a lot of overlapping and similarities between thalassemia and PKD, so it makes sense for us to work together. Now, furthermore, the healthcare services and infrastructure that are needed to treat both diseases are by and large the same. So, for instance, we both need transfusion centers. We share the same core group of doctors. Many hematologists treat both thalassemia and PKD patients. And therefore, we do have common issues, we do have common policies and common challenges that we need to pursue in order to change. And acknowledging these similarities, while at the same time realizing that there is an absence of a disease-specific international patient organization to fulfill the educational and advocacy needs of these patients' communities, and aware that the patients of and aware that patients of other hemolytic anemias are members of national thalassemia associations in various countries. So many PKD patients are members of our associations globally. TIF has felt the ethical obligation to include PKD within its educational and advocacy programs. We'll see how as we move on, and to also share our expertise and our infrastructure and resources with the community, but also to provide assistance and support to the wider patient community and related healthcare professionals. At the end of the day, TIFF, with its 30-something years of experience, we hope that the unification of the patient voice against common challenges, and that this newfound strength in numbers will lead to policy changes that will improve the lives of not only just thalassemia patients or PKD patients, but generally rare anemia patients. So TIFF came into collaboration with the PKD community in early 2020. This was, as we all know, the beginning of the pandemic year. So that was an additional challenge that we had to work with. And recognizing all of these similarities and overlapping challenges, but also opportunities, TIFF offered its services to this community. One of the first things that we realized is that there is a lot of scattered knowledge about PKD, mainly found in the form of scientific articles by a few select experts in the disease. So one of the first things that we wanted to do to bring to the patient community was to gather all of this information into one specific portal. So we developed an info portal. It's a web page on our main website that encompasses not only community resources, so patient-friendly resources, but also scientific news and of advances, etc. And this was subsequently, in order to improve access, translated in a number of languages. So that page is available to all of you in Spanish, in French, in German, Italian, and in Arabic, in addition to English. Following on from that development of an info portal, we found it very useful and very eye-opening and insightful to be part of a multi-stakeholder advisory council. So TIFF, together with another 2 patient organizations, umbrella patient organizations, but also most importantly, PKD patients and caregivers and healthcare professionals treating physicians, came to form a multi-stakeholder advisory council that was truly international in nature. And part of our work within 2020 and 2021 came to be the publication of a white paper that truly reflected the patient experience of support, treatment, and care. And that is available for you to browse at your leisure on the info portal, which has previously been mentioned. Moving forward and recognizing the unmet needs of the PKD community, we felt that it was hugely important to share the expertise and the practice that TIFF has had since its early days, since the early 1990s, to hold annual conferences in thalassemia, which would gather both patients, caregivers, spouses, children, but also healthcare professionals to interact and to share news of the advances in the field, but also to reflect on what is currently going on and how to improve those. So a first effort to do this was to organize a joint patient and healthcare professional session at TIFF's International Conference. This was a virtual conference held last year. And this was highly successful because I feel that it was the first time that patients and healthcare professionals actually chaired the session, but also participated as presenters and as audience of this in this educational opportunity. And this has, I feel, now developed into the wonderful conference that you're living through now today. And moving forward from that, in a slow and steady race, as I previously mentioned, the Rare Anemias International Network was set up. Both TIFF and Thrive are members of RAIN, and we hope that moving into 2023, we will be able to deliver more educational opportunities and advocacy opportunities through that international network. We've recently also put out a PKD bulletin. It's very important for the community, the patient community and parents to know what is going on in terms of clinical trials, in terms of newly authorized medicines in the disease, and in terms of generally how do I stay healthy? How do I monitor my health and my physical state in order to be the best that I can and to lead a quality of life that is not in any way impaired compared to anyone else. So our first edition has come out in early October, so it's very, very new. And this will be distributed every 3 months. So our upcoming one will be at the end of December. And we welcome any suggestions as to topics to include or articles that you would like to include. And there's a subscription link on the info portal on our website. One of the most important things that we feel we have gifted to the PKD community and drawing on our experience and resources has been this Charter of Priorities. So a Charter of Priorities, what is it? In order to advocate for any change to happen, we know that it's a slow and steady progress. Change does not happen overnight. What is important, though, is to have a clear, objective view of what is happening in the landscape that influences our lives. So this includes everything from diagnosis, from care, to social and professional integration of patients, to the delivery of services, whether they be blood transfusion services, whether they be medications, whether they be new innovative therapies, gel and cell-based therapies, for example. It's important that we have an objective view of what is going on around us. In order to have this X-ray of this landscape, we need to be able to take a step back and actually document all of these various things that are happening. By doing that and understanding the landscape, we do recognize the unmet needs and the policy gaps and the opportunities for change. It's kind of a little bit like a SWOT analysis. These come together and suddenly you realize, okay, so what are the priorities of our disease area? What needs to change? What needs to happen in order for us to live a better life, in order for us to have more access to treatment, in order for us not to worry about blood shortages or blood safety, or whether our iron is being assessed properly, or if our healthcare providers have enough information and enough expertise in order to treat this complex disease. This subsequently raises the visibility of the disease. A Charter of Priorities will always raise the visibility of the disease because it in addition to an advocacy tool, it's a raising awareness tool. And it helps us identify how to make improvements. Decision makers, we all know, are very busy people. They need to be given direction. They need to be given advice by the people that actually live through the disease. The people that live daily in caring for people with PKD or with thalassaemia or with any other disease. So TIFF has developed charters of priorities for many years now. Most notably, our experience has been in India a few years back, where we developed a charter of priorities for a total of 8 different states, because India is a country that has a regional healthcare system. The priorities for each state were different, and therefore we needed to take that into account. So it was a long and burdensome journey, and we wanted to transpose that experience to the PKD community at a global level. And we have issued in late 2021 this document, this Charter of Priorities, which, as far as I know, is in your info pack as well. And it is, of course, customizable. This has come from us to you. It has come from a literature review of scientific and other publications that were available at that time regarding PKD, and that had information about epidemiology, so where does PKD exist, about prevalence, so how many people with PKD, or potentially how many people can be born with PKD, about inheritance patterns, about how diagnosis happens, the symptoms, the complications, disease burden, treatment options, patient perceptions, etc. The most important thing, however, that went into developing this Charter of Priorities was not our literature review. That just gave us an overview of what is happening. The most important thing that happened was our participation in that multi-stakeholder advisory council, where we had the opportunity to actually listen to patients and to draw on their experiences and their issues and their challenges, and to come up with an all-rounded view of what it means to live with PKD, and in that helped us identify how we can find ways to change and improve that experience. And at the end, once we developed it, we did get multi-stakeholder feedback from the community. Excuse me. So this is what the Charter of Priorities looks like. As I mentioned, it should be in your info pack, or you can download it online. These are 22 priority areas for action according to 5 main areas, spanning from awareness raising to medical, to access to care, to diagnosis. There are also cross-cutting issues. These are very high-level issues that are mentioned here. They are high-level priorities. It is essentially a list of what I wish I could change. And this is, of course, customizable to the specific needs or the specific directions at the local, regional, and international level. So this needs, obviously, further prioritization in order to, and actions in order to combat these. The take-home message from me today is essentially that knowledge is power and unity is strength. So your effort to participate in this conference, either in person or virtually, is a first step to empowering the community to advocate for change. Conversations at the end of the day for change happen between experts, and sorry, and experts are not just healthcare professionals. Patients are experts, caregivers are experts, but you need to have that educational foundation to know what is going on around you, to know with reliable and an evidence-based way that you can convey the correct messages to the decision makers and to those who will eventually take the decisions to implement policies or to develop new policies or to even change your treatment regimen. So it's very important. Education is the #1 tool in your journey to change and improve your lives. With that, I would like to thank you all for listening. I hope that I have added to the experience of the conference. I would like to thank the TIF Board of Directors for taking the initiative to convey and share our expertise and our messages with the PKD community. We hope to continue to support the community in any way that you see fit, and to continue to collaborate with Thrive on an individual basis, but also in the context of RAIN and the Patient International Blood Alliance. And to also thank my fellow staff members here at the Thalassaemia International Federation for their help in delivering all of those educational and advocacy programs for the PKD community. No effort is small in this worldwide approach. Thank you very much.